We are FartKnight gamers, mobile players, paywall haters, entertainers, hot as lasers. Tell your neighbor, do a favor, you should subscribe, and you'll see more. Not lightning, he's not lightning, so enlightening, not so frightening. Hit like, and you'll see more. Who farted? He's who farted, not faint-hearted, nor outsmarted. Let's get started.
All right, folks, I'm Kightlightnin.
And I'm WhoFartd.
So welcome back to FartKnight Gamers. We had a hiatus here in New York where this show is produced with some crazy weather and lots of power outages, and it's just complete pandemonium. I actually had a neighbor who woke up with a tree in his bedroom.
I don't know too many trees that, occur in the bedroom, so I'm assuming that was not a fun thing.
No. It was, but it gave you a lot of, gave us a lot of aesthetics to walk around and look at during the day. It's like, oh, that's my neighbor. That was my neighbor's house, and he doesn't have a top floor really anymore.
You can always call him every so often and say, "I see you sleeping."
I see you sleeping. Yes, I am the peeping Tom. Changing my name to Tom legally. So we have colorful language on this channel. We have mature content meant for adults. If that's not your bag, baby, go to somebody else's channel.
And if you got kids in the room, earmuffs.
Check out the timestamps in the description below to see if there's a particular subject you might find interesting. All right, I wanted to get into this. We have Oceanics in the game, and good Lord, have they made a splash. Ha, 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 ha.
Oh, that was so bad.
That was not planned, I'd like to say.
I'm very thankful that was not planned.
So, yeah. So, what are your all right, so there's look, we got Maui and Moana, but let's go for the main two, because we got the Stitch Tower that occurred, that happened, but God, man, now that I've been facing teams with captaingantu and cobrabubbles, it is crazy. And believe it or not, this guy is actually a defense role. Believe it or not, even though he just constantly dishes out damage because he's got this counterattack technique that just keeps going and going and going. So very, very interesting concept-wise. What are your impressions of captaingantu and or cobrabubbles now that we've seen some gameplay going on?
Sorry, I originally went in and was looking through this early on, and I started to think that these were going to be game changers. And then as I'm seeing it more and more, I'm realizing that the nuances that they bring out in other characters just make it so much harder, that they took Oceanic from what I was seeing as a power in the coming future to a superpower. This scares me for the future because we are expecting a couple more from what they've indicated of Oceanic. So I'm wondering that if they're going to fit in closer to, let's call it, our two elite characters, and the fact that we're starting to see people finally getting 5-star Jeffrey Rushes. Not Jeffrey Rush. Who's the other? No, other Pirates of the Caribbean.
You mean Barbosa, who's not in the game?
No. He's in the game. I'm having a complete brain fart.
Oh, you mean Davy Jones?
Davy Jones. Thank you.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's how you know it's a hard work day right there.
Yes, it's been a long day, and I've been working since 6-something this morning. So it's now I put in basically a 12-hour day of staring at a computer screen, and my brain's kind of fried. But he essentially brings out, if you use him properly, the ability to take some of the best things about the Paul McCartney teams in terms of spamming those little trolls, but he can do it with his own crewmates. So you can not only get all the benefits of the 2 new Oceanic characters, but you can also utilize him to spam additional characters, add in your bucket of soldiers, and you've got 5, 10 guys coming at you that might hit lightly, but you're following with bucket of soldiers afterwards.
Yeah, man, I gotta tell you, bucket of soldiers is really, he's really standing the test of time. You know, ever since I started fighting people who got the upgraded version, not just 2,
yes,
but maybe even 3 soldiers. Whew, brutal, man. If you don't shut that down, it's bad news. It's a bad scene. It turns basic attacks into something actually worth doing in this game.
Yes.
So,
no, it's people who use it right, and then they add in speed to him on top of the other characters getting the right crystals on him. It's very, like, you have to time everything perfectly right to really beat these teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We went from, what did we have? We had 4 farmable Oceanic characters a month ago, with, you know, Davy Jones being a 5th kind of pseudo-farmable character. And, you know, if you're participating in the club conquest and if you're doing well, maybe you get him farmed up. But it's not like in your direct control to do anything as far as storing him up. And now we have 8 Oceanic characters, and from what I've seen, because I fought Maui, I fought Moana teams, I've gotten completely creamed by Oceanic. I don't know, I'm still trying to understand all the synergies that are going on in all the individual kits. The teams are incredible for Oceanics at the moment.
When you have characters that, let's take Moana, let's take cobrabubbles, let's take Gantu, let's take Davy Jones. You have 4 elite characters that all fit on one team. And there's really not been an instance of this. I would say, even you compare to the Paul McCartney teams, I wouldn't say there's 4 elite characters. There's 3 elite characters and a complimentary and a snowman who's crappy. This has potential to get even worse, because once Stitch becomes readily available, Stitch has got an amazing kit.
So the farming guides have all changed. I really believe. I think Captaingantu and cobrabubbles might be the most 2 important farmable characters in this game right now. They're both incredibly solid individually as characters. Gantu is really cool because he's a tank, and he's a defensive guy who does a lot of damage. He's got a really interesting kit, and he counterattacks. So even if he's not hitting like super hard, he's hitting often. cobrabubbles is one of the sickest support characters in this game. He does all sorts of shit. So let's just take a quick look. So this is his basic, where we have potential slow extensions going on. Then we go to his special, where he could remove turn meter, and you know, your target's gaining speed meter, and people gain tactics. I feel like Merlin is almost, and it sucks because I'm almost done 7-starring Merlin. Merlin is almost completely useless in this game. And I know that's not completely true, but I feel like it's true because...
I'd say that's pretty apt. I was always quite surprised. Not quite surprised that you went after Merlin, because you love your theory crafting. And Merlin screams theory crafting.
Yeah,
but
it reduces cooldowns and grants tactics, which gives the character a 100% chance to pull shit off. Which isn't entirely true, because it doesn't work on passive abilities.
I would say you're a half step away from Dan Cool level questionable farming with 7-starring him.
Well, exactly. And then, you know, at the time, he was the only, when I started farming him in my defense, he was the only person who granted tactics in this game. Then Olaf comes out, and now cobrabubbles comes out, and he's like throwing tactics all over the place. And God, I think Maui might throw it around too. He gives like all of Oceanic. Let me just take a look. It's his leadership ability. It's fucking crazy. His leadership. Let's look at it. Grant self and all teammates a shield. And oh no, he doesn't give it. But yeah, I mean, cobrabubbles tosses around tactics like crazy. So there's so many more characters gaining it. It's just kind of nuts. It's just kind of nuts. And I'll be honest, Moana might be. She is definitely up there for character potential. She might be one of the best in the game because of two things. First of all, she has an attack that hits a number of people, I believe, in an adjacent area. So even if you've got your guy taunting, you're hitting people around that area, which is always very helpful. It's not that many characters in the game who actually do adjacent attacks that do significant damage, okay? But this thing she's got, where the hell is it? Her passive ability. And this has no cooldown. And in case those of you aren't aware, a lot of passive abilities in this game have cooldowns or like magic usages. So what that means is even if it's a passive ability, if it's got a cooldown or has a magic requirement, like 1 or 2 bars, that means they can't use it every single turn. When there's a passive ability, just like your basics that have no magic number requirement, that means it can trigger every single turn. So this passive triggers every single turn, but wait, there's more. There's a lot more. Let's look at Moana's passive ability. This is the thing called Master Wayfinder. On turn start, apply taunt for 2 turns to the opponent with the lowest health percentage, ignoring stealth. And if Maui's a teammate, he's called to assist. And you can call an additional teammate to assist. So how did I find out about this? I was fighting a team of all Oceanics. It was cobrabubbles and captaingantu and Maui and Moana, and I think maybe Jack Sparrow was in there somewhere. I throw out Raja to start my taunts, and immediately when I do that, my Shen Yu starts taunting, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And that's when I really had to dig into the Oceanic kits to figure out what the hell was going on. And look, anything in this game that can get around tanks is extremely important. To me, Oceanic could definitely beat up any team in this game. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but they have it within their kit to definitely beat Frozen and Kingdom and whatever else you got.
I don't think they'll be 100% against a good Frozen team, because I think that's where they have some liability in that, because Frozen teams are one of the few elite teams that has an automatic taunter in there. Well, I shouldn't say automatic, but pretty close to it. That it won't completely get around it because the computer is going to glitch a little bit with playing these teams.
Right. So what you're saying is if the Oceanic team is on defense and they, just because Moana, say, force taunts to Elsa or Anna, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be hitting that person, because Kristoff could be taunting and the CPU could just decide to still keep hitting Kristoff.
Exactly. That was exactly what I was saying with this. That you can't assume the CPU is going to do the smartest thing, because we've seen time and time again that it doesn't always do what's most needed.
Yeah, and I think we all know this from the difference between when we're doing Sorcerer's Tournament and PvP Arena. Even when you're fighting equal teams comparatively, you're comparing apples to apples. When you're fighting a Frozen team that actually has Peter's shadow, say, under control, and you're fighting like 4 Svens, and you're dealing with like 30,000 damage, that's
Yeah.
just stomping you constantly. It's very different than when the Sorcerer's Tournament CPU is making a decision and the Peter Shadow is like, oh, I know, let's make a copy of Olaf. Or something like that. So
You mean you don't want 7 Olafs?
well, I'll say this. Something was scary the other day. I ended up fighting 3 Zergs. And they
Oh,
were
geez.
all lined up in a row. It was
That's ugly.
It was terrifying. But here's the interesting thing, though. I've had some really interesting interactions with Peter Shadow, because here's what's cool with Peter Shadow. I don't use it because I have
Am I the only one who just heard that sound horribly? I had some interesting interactions with Peter Shadow.
Oh, that's funny. No, but seriously, what's cool about Peter Shadow, but was also awful at the same time, and I didn't realize there was anything awful about it until yesterday. Peter Shadow is so cool because it copies all of the buffs on the character. So if you have Zerg with offense up and you copy him, your Peter Shadow has offense up. If you copy Kristoff with taunt, guess what? Your Shadow is automatically taunting. This is great and especially useful in things like the Tower of Endurance when you're climbing. So if you could make a copy of a character of yours that's taunting, then you could divert a lot of attention towards that non-character in a way to save your team a lot of damage. But here's what's interesting. What's interesting is debuffs are also copied. And the greatest thing that ever happened in a match happened to me either yesterday or today. And as you know, I run Fairy Slumber. I am trying to get it to level 4, actually. I have it level 3, and it's been really great so far. But you have to be careful, and it doesn't really always work on defense because the computer does not know how to use this spell. So you have to be intelligent and careful and sometimes even get a little lucky with it. But it can be amazing. But I had Elsa asleep, and the CPU decided using Peter Shadow on Elsa. So they copied Elsa, and what hit the board was a sleeping Elsa.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea that was even possible until the last 24 hours. I'm like, oh, wow. And here's the thing. Think about it this way. It actually makes Fairy Slumber even cooler because let's say you have their last 2 or 3 characters available on the field and you put them to sleep. Unless they have Golden Hammer ready to go and they have Peter Shadow, they have to hold that Peter Shadow, or else when they cast that Peter Shadow, they're going to be putting on a sleeping character that will not be able to do anything onto the field. So that I felt was really cool. So WhoFartd, let me ask you this. What do you think of the new spell that came with the Oceanics?
I'll be honest, I've actually had very limited interactions with this spell. But
I've only seen it a few times played against me.
But from what I've read through, I think it has potential to be I wouldn't call it a game changer, but one that is the most prevalent with Oceanic in the future.
Yeah, and look, even if you're not using it with Oceanic, I like the idea of it's funny, a week before the spell came out, I was thinking they really need a spell that just heals your team for mainly PvE reasons. If we get a raid in the future, if you're going through the tower, it'd be nice to actually have a spell that does a mass heal, that's not named the Golden Hammer necessarily. Because as we know, the Golden Hammer has very limited use now, since it doesn't give people who are not downtown heroes invulnerable anymore. So, but I think the spell is very interesting. It's very interesting. It's a pretty solid healing spell, and if you can keep your guys awake a little longer, it's good. I don't think it's overpowered. I think it's a nice spell that has some nice flavor, some cool mechanics, but you know, I'm not afraid to go against someone who has it.
Exactly.
So here's the question. Is Oceanic the most important faction in the game now? And I think you know why I think that might be true.
I wouldn't go yet. Until Stitch is readily available, I wouldn't go yet. Because they are still beatable. Now, I know where you're going with this, and it's alluding to the speed crystals.
Yes.
But because you can purchase those crystals also with currency, I don't think it's as, that's why I won't call them. Right now, I'd say the most important is the Paul McCartney teams because they match up the best with every other team out there overall.
Right.
Once Stitch comes and is readily available to actually, like, unless you're wailing out like a crazy level, then I'd say it's up for debate.
The only reason I disagree with you with that is because, yes, I only had mythicals to do the higher end of some of the trials and was able to purchase the basic speed crystal. That is true. But that is the basic version. To upgrade it, you need this shit right here. The faint yellow starlight and the hell is it? The yellow starlight. So when I go here, so let's just take a look. So for those who are not aware how the hell this works, because honestly, there's no real tutorial when you're playing this game. They don't really tell you how shit works. So if you go to any character and you click on this bottom piece down here, the circle thing, you get all these different stone types, right? Defense, health, and so forth. So speed, these are the ones we can buy right now. We can go find 5% speed stone, and, you know, they're in this shop here in the Sorcerer's Exchange. However, in order for me to upgrade this to really important levels like the 10% level or even the 15% level, that is when I need the Oceanic characters. Because, yes, you can buy any of the basics of any faction with that. However, the only time you can upgrade any of these is if you're procuring the levels with whatever faction is necessary. So, as an example, mythical is how you get the health stuff, you know, I don't know, what the hell, the starlight, I guess they call it. And I think recovery's in that one. No. So mythical is for health and critical chance. Wilds are for recovery and offense and critical power. And Oceanic is required for the, where the hell is it? Defense, which is good, but most importantly, speed. And, you know, it's just a fact of life, unfortunately. When you have a turn-based game, there is tremendous advantage in going first. Even if you're one speed faster than the other team, that makes all the difference in the world. Because if you think of games, like let's take card games, right? Take Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, you name it. Even though there's a turn order and one person goes first, one person goes second, the person who goes second is given some kind of advantage. You know, for example, Magic the Gathering, when you have someone who goes first, they get to go first. But the person who goes second gets to draw a card. So they're slower, but they're starting with a little bit more inventory to try and counterbalance the natural speed advantage of the person going first. In games like this, though, there is no counterbalancing. There's no, the person who's slower actually gets some kind of advantage to, or something to offset the advantage of the faster team. So that is why you see my Kingdom team here with all speed crystals. Because even though Health might be ideal for Jasmine and might be ideal for Raja. I like being able to get that Raja out as fast as possible because, look, if Dash goes twice and Raja's not out, or let's say Zerg goes, or, pick a character that deals insane amount of damage, if you get one of your characters killed before, say, your Raja comes out, there was no point in even having Jasmine in your team. So even though health is ideal for her because Raja's health is based on Jasmine's health, you have a situation where if you're not getting Raja out on the field, Jasmine is just not doing her job. So there might be a trade-off, though. There might be a thing where, hey, if you have a 10% health stone on Jasmine, maybe that is more equivalent to a 5% speed stone on Jasmine in terms of bang for your buck. So that's kind of my thinking on that.
So that was a lot to take in, but I think you do make a very good point in the sense of when we get to the point, and there are whales out there that are ready to step up their to the 10% speed, plus 15% speed, that you can't buy that in the same way, and you'll be severely hindered. So I think that's a very good point, and something a perspective I had not really looked at from. So I think it's fair to say that Oceanic, if they're not number one, they're number two in importance, and clearly they'll be number one in the future as we get to the point where we're ready to hit those next level crystals.
Yeah, because I mean, again, there is a matter of relative importance because you don't really need a 10% speed stone unless you're either punching up, meaning fighting a team that is significantly naturally stronger or faster than yours because of tiers or whatever, or until other people start adding 10% speed stones and then 15% speed stones. So it becomes important in the same way an arms race can become important.
Yes. Well, that's what Arena is. It's an arms race.
Should we introduce our newest edition in fake news?
You mean it's not an alternative costume for BBW?
Hey, man, look, I'll tell you right now, we actually got a lot of heat. There were some people on the Discord, it's funny. There were people announced to be new Discord moderators who were also content creators on YouTube. And like as soon as that happened, we released that BBW fake news video or the video that has him in it. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, you can't post this thing here or that thing there. I'm like, hold on. So what you're saying is I can't, and they were giving me a lot of mixed messages there. I said, hold on, is it because of the image itself? Was that the issue? And they're like, no, it's just because you can't post links to your videos in the general chat because that's not where it belongs. I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is I can post this image by itself without a link to the chat. Like, no. I'm like, wait a minute, what? So it is the image. Oh no, it's not the image. It's this other thing. So I mean, I don't want to say anything terrible, and I'm not going to say who I was dealing with. But it's just interesting.
Let's be honest.
A YouTube content creator who I'm not going to say we're in competition with because we just got, I think, we're back to 31 and now 32 subscribers. Thanks to, let me think, I think it was Sloth King and Tara Kitani, the infamous Tara Kitani, who helped inspire our execution of the new intro. But it's an interesting scenario when someone who is a content creator of YouTube trying to get their own views is telling someone else they can't post their content in certain places.
Look,
it's a little, yeah.
they were intimidated by our massive total of 32 subscribers. Like, you know, they couldn't deal with that number. It just like blew their mind. They're like, okay, we need to find a way to eliminate these guys.
Dude, I feel like there would have to be at least another 2 zeros behind that number for it to like even register anywhere on the planet. But you know what? I will say this. Shout out to every one of our YouTube commenters, because I like the comments they've been putting in. I definitely want to see more, and I definitely want to get more ideas. Because honestly, it's not. We have actually a backlog of great fake news we have not used at all. We just haven't put out enough videos, honestly, to utilize them all. But you know, sometimes timing is important, and if other people have ideas, and if other people want to see certain topics covered, I'd love to hear it. And we can get maybe Dan Cruel and Littlefinger in on the action as well. Okay, so moving forward, we're introducing our newest fake news edition, and the Queen of the Seas herself, Ursula, from The Little Mermaid. So, who farted? Just when you hear the name Ursula, what do you think of?
Well, to be honest, it's not Little Mermaid. I think of 007 and the most prototypical Bond girl ever. But
Ursula Andress?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. That could be its own little spin on this. I should have thought of that, but that's pretty good.
I don't think that's one of the few things that Disney hasn't bought up yet. I think 007 isn't quite carrying around a Mickey Mouse style.
I think that would be great. You know, the intro starts. You know, you got the gun barrel, the classic gun barrel, and when it goes red, you know, you just hear one thing behind the voice. You see like a white little gloved finger pull around for that barrel before the guy gets shot in those 007 videos. So you see her, ha ha ha. The name's Mouse, Mickey Mouse. Ha ha.
But non-007 reference, when I think Ursula, I think one of the biggest bad characters that was out there in terms of a lot of Disney characters, the bad guys have a certain light side to them, or they come off nice at a certain point. And other than about 2 seconds into the movie, she's never anything close to nice, and you clearly know.
Right. She's wonderfully unsympathetic. There is no redeeming features at all. She looks really cool. She's got this really fascinating speaking voice. And she just steals people's souls and makes their lives complete trash. And her only friends are like these, like I guess, I don't know what the hell they are.
Let's put it this way. If she was Triton's daughter, she would be the Hela of the Disney universe.
There you go. So, okay, we have our own BBW here in Ursula. She's definitely a big, beautiful woman, for sure. And so cool. Easily one of the coolest villains Disney has ever had. So her first basic ability is called Dark Incantation. So I picture her throwing potions into her cauldron and doing all this crazy stuff. So, WhoFartd, what do you think this might be here?
So I look at it this way, that I see her in general as someone who's not going to be as much of an attacker, that I see her as like a debuff master. And only when you have certain debuffs does she do clear attacks. So I predict that the next two attacks, the basic and the special, both are going to work similarly. One is going to spread a generic attack, and the next one is going to focus on silence. So I think that Dark Incantation is a spell that gives a guaranteed debuffs. They're randomized. You don't know what's going to hit. But it also sets the stage for the special in the sense of if the character gets a certain debuff, that means they have a higher chance when she does the Sea Witch's contract to silence that character.
Excellent. I like it. It's very cool. Kind of Madame Mimish in a way.
Yes.
But I think their personalities are very similar, like evil, manipulative, no redeeming features. She's like the Madame Mim under the sea, essentially.
Yes.
I think that's cool. Much better looking than Madame Mim, in my opinion, I gotta say. First special is called Sea Witch's Contract. Now, I have a few ideas on this. I think of the movie, right? Ariel gets what she wants, but she has to give up her voice. So, and it's actually something that allows Ursula to impersonate her later on. So there's a seeming immediate benefit with tremendous drawbacks. So I'm thinking this might actually buff the opposing character, but might implement either like a ticking time bomb for like a bunch of debuffs. So maybe you're giving them a buff or two, but they get like 3 or 4 debuffs after the buff expires. Or let's say it's a buff that lasts 1 turn, but the debuffs last multiple turns. So there's a benefit in a way, but there could be extremely harsh disabling debuffs.
So to this point, I would like to expand on my idea that it gives silence. Maybe it's because her contract was kind of a slap in the face to Ariel, in the sense that she finally gets what she wants and it ends up blowing up horribly. So maybe it adds a buff that increases damage on your special but silences you at the same time.
Right. And what's interesting is you mentioned that it was Ariel specifically, that her voice was so special that was stolen. So what if it does a different debuff depending on the role of the individual? So if the person's defensively oriented, their defense is like shot to shit. Or if they're offensively oriented, they get some benefit, but their offensive power is like cut by half or 2/3 or something. It could be some interesting things. But more importantly, Ariel aside, in order to get and earn a contract with Ursula, does she have a casting couch?
You have to assume she definitely has a casting couch.
And does Flotsam and Jetsam have anything to do with that casting couch?
Okay, so here's something that I'm curious about. It's under the water. Is this casting couch made of some like waterproof thing, or is it like a coral couch?
It's a water bed.
Oh, okay. So that's what I was kind of wondering, because I was thinking of this, like, you know, Ariel likes to collect like things that are from the land.
Yes.
And I'm assuming one time she might have tried to like bring a couch down, and you know, maybe Ursula did that too.
Well, I think we're being optimistic here, because it's one thing to be forced to be on a casting couch. It's another thing to be forced on a casting couch made of like seaweed. You know, it just gives you an extra aroma as part of the overall casting couch experience. Not that I have personal casting couch experience at all.
We all know the truth that Dan Cool had a casting couch and you fell for it, so, you know.
Well, I'm sure if Littlefinger was on this channel, he would tell us about how he was forced to be on a casting couch in his poorer days when he's trying to make ends meet. He's if anybody wants to go to any of our earlier videos with Littlefinger, there are quite a number of stories of him working the corner, so to speak. So, but the ocean doesn't have corners.
Or does it? You know, SpongeBob had roads. So, you know, I'm just saying, like, there could be corners in, where does SpongeBob live? Pineapple something or other?
Yeah, sure. I'll give it to you.
I don't know. I never really watched it other than, like, times when the remote's broken. So,
but SpongeBob himself has corners.
Yes.
God. How does this always happen? We never planned this out this way, but it just happens that way. Flotsam and Jetsam, two parts of the threesome of Ursula's gang, so to speak. So I'm thinking she summons these two creatures in the same spot, or summons in two different spots, and they help. Maybe they automatically assist, kind of like, I don't know, Kristoff summoning his trolls or something. What do you think Flotsam and Jetsam might be up to here?
So I was looking at it a little differently in the sense that what also somewhat famous Flotsam and Jetsam usage was there before. Think to Metallica's history. Yes, that was the name of Jason Newsted's first band. So is it possible that she summons Jason Newsted? I'm just saying.
Oh, that'd be cool. So when you're kicking the opponent's ass, you got a really good bassist,
Exactly,
or bass beat going around to a Metallica song.
Come on, what experience does Metallica not make better?
That's fair. That's a fair statement right there.
So
no arguments from here at all. So okay, so moving on. We have her passive ability called Poor Unfortunate Souls, and we got a picture of her in her like pseudo-aerial style transformation. So she makes this contract, she transforms as the person she made the contract with. So maybe that's what happens in this battle. Maybe whoever she made that Sea Witch's contract with earlier in her special, there's some passive that triggers that maybe allows her to take on some of the features and even the appearance of that opponent character.
it could be a Peter Shadow type situation.
Yes, exactly. But instead of making a copy, Ursula takes on the shape of that individual. And that would be really cool. I don't think we have any of that in the game so far, right?
No, we really haven't had like a character that takes on different things. There's no Shang Tsung of the Disney World as of yet.
That would be really interesting to see, actually. So that's our take on Poor Unfortunate Souls. So WhoFartd, on her leadership ability, we move to Stolen Power. Now, what do you think of the idea of stealing some, or at least nerfing the leadership ability that is active on the opponent's field?
So that's an interesting space because it could be overpowering as the time goes on. So that's one thing that scares me when introducing something like this. That right now people would slow play that and be like, it's not a big deal. It's 8%, it's 10%, whatever it is. But I think as there's a power creep coming on, this is going to make her more and more important.
But isn't this actually the perfect character in that case? Rather than go ahead and have to keep nerfing spells specifically, or, like we did with the bringing out the Nerf gun to the spells, or nerfing specific character kits, why not just put in a character that just can nerf people? Like this, hey, let's put Ursula in the game. She'll just do the work for us.
But wait, wouldn't that character just be the developers?
Yeah, but Ursula would be like a reskin developer in this way.
Okay. I see how you're going with it.
Right? And look, here's the other thing. I didn't put it in here, but what if this was, like we mentioned before with passive abilities, sometimes they have magic level requirements where they can trigger every turn, but they can trigger at certain points. What if it had like a cooldown or something like that, or a magic requirement where you're nerfing or stealing the leadership ability of the opposing team and adding it to your team every, X number of turns, or every 2 turns. So every other turn, that team is not able to take advantage of their leadership ability. So it's not a total nerf, but it's a very significant impact. And there are also times where it's useless, because if you're going against a team that's not really making use of a leadership ability, or you're going against a team whose leadership is not that great, you're not getting that much bang for your buck. But the better your opponent's leadership ability is, the better Ursula's leadership is. So that could be, I think this kit is really cool, honestly. I think this concept would be really interesting.
And would work very well with Oceanic in general, because it brings
Absolutely.
different things that don't exist into today's characters.
Yeah, because I mean, look, does Oceanic, in terms of their mechanics, is there really a theme going on? Like,
No.
is there something I've missed? They're kind of all over the place. It's like, they're in the ocean. There's no, I don't see any common denominator, which in a way can be a strength, because you're giving the Oceanic characters a lot of diversity in abilities, especially with cobrabubbles and Moana and Maui. It's like just completely crazy. So there's really nothing they can't do.
Exactly.
So, all right. Anything else you want to say about this new creation, Ursula?
I think we said it all.
All right. Don't forget, like and subscribe, folks. We will definitely try to put out videos more frequently. We apologize for the delay between last time and this time, but we're going to try to get more on the ball, providing storms don't blow trees into our houses.
Well, I would just like to say, not even questions or anything like that. I would ask our quest for 33 subscribers.
Yes.
We want to hit this number. We know by asking to hit 33 again, we're probably dropping back to 30, but let's go for 33.
Yeah, last time we asked, we dropped to 31. And I think Sloth King and Tarakatani came in to save the day there.
So if you've got friends, you've got a girlfriend, if you got a wife, if you got kids, have them sign up. They don't ever have to look at it again, but get us to 33.
Well, we do want actual views, and we want, look, I would take a much lower audience, but a more, happier audience, rather than an inflated number at the same time. So,
oh, no.
WhoFartd and I might disagree on that a little bit.
Inflate it all the way up. I don't care if you ever look at it again. I just want a huge subscriber base.
Well, there you go, folks. Listen, I'm gonna put this out there. Who do you think it's gonna be Oceanic themed? Who do you think our next Oceanic character should be, or next fake news character in general should be? So I'll put that out there. We'll see you next time, folks. Thanks.